der Tate, die Mamen juich, die Jäger wird sein unser Kind. Du wirst sein der Tate, die Mamen juich, die Jäger wird sein unser Kind. Kom Salomo mijn lief en neem de wieger bij. We spelen samen, je bent mijn beste vriend. Jij bent de vader, ik zal mama zijn. De pop, dat is ons mooie kind. Oh, jij bent de vader, ik zal mama zijn. De pop, dat is ons mooie kind. Du wirst daheim kommen, nichts bringen, kein Geld. Und ich will sie kriegen mir nicht. Oi, Gaslin, das Kind, ne wacht zittert bunkelt. Und du kaufst kein Schickelach für ihn. Oh, Gaslin, das Kind, ne wacht zittert bunkelt. Und du kaufst kein Schickelach für ihn. En jij komt naar huis en je brengt geen geld. En ik maak wel ruzie met jou. O gruwel, het arme kind heeft geen schoenen aan. En het bibbert van de kou. Gruwel, het arme kind heeft geen schoenen aan. En het bibbert van de kou. Om werd als kind wenens, werd hongerig zijn. Ik stoep niks, kein brood, niks, kein Geld. Nu wil ik schelten, am missen mein. So wie mein Mama mich schelt. Nu wil ik schelten, am missen mein. So wie mein Mama mich schelt. Als het kind huilt en hongerig is, want is geen brood, geen geld in huis. Ik zal voor je zorgen, ook wordt het einde slecht. Ik zal zoals mijn moeder zijn die voor mij vecht. Ik zal voor je zorgen, ook wordt het einde slecht. Ik zal zoals mijn moeder zijn die voor mij vecht.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, dear attendees. This evening, for the 8th year in a row, Kazerne Dossin organizes a solemn portrait ceremony. It is for me the first time that I will experience this special ceremony as a general director. I'm grateful for the trust that has been placed in me to lead this important institution, and it's an honor to be here to open this ceremony. In the past year, no less than 281 new photographs were found for the portrait wall. Tonight, we come together to witness their solemn addition to the memorial wall in our institute, in our museum. The importance of this project to give these victims a face cannot be emphasized enough. It not only allows us to remember and commemorate them, it's also a message and a call to action for all those who see the photographs of these victims. As Elie Wiesel said, whoever listens to a witness becomes a witness. And you could also say, whoever looks at these pictures becomes a witness as well. The viewer shows that he or she finds it important that the victims of the time are recognized, that they are not a number or a statistic, but that they look at us and that we see them and we do not forget them. This also includes a topical message, a call for tolerance, against discrimination and exclusion. It's a reminder of the hope and also the necessary task to strive for a world without racism or genocide. This year, because of the safety measures and travel restrictions that have been put in place, we make the ceremony happen online. It's being broadcast simultaneously in Dutch, French, and English. In this way, we want to honor and commemorate the victims together with you, spread across different locations and places of residence. Remembering is not something you do alone. At the start of this ceremony, I would like also to thank everyone who contributed to this valuable commemoration project of giving them a face. Kazerne Dossin works together with family members and friends of the victims, with researchers and with fellow institutions at home and abroad. And we have a team of extremely dedicated and professional people who find their motivation and strength in the mission of Kazerne Dossin. It's a memorial, it's a museum, and a research center on Holocaust and human rights. This mission includes honoring the memory of the victims, documenting and researching the history of the Holocaust with a focus on the Belgian story, but putting this in an international perspective, and providing education for children, for young people and adults. All this with respect for human dignity and human rights of all. I thank you.
Good evening, dear attendees, joining us from so many different places. Physically, perhaps very far away, but tonight, all in mind, very close. It is an honor to welcome you tonight at this inauguration of New Portraits. The music you just heard was brought to us by Oscar Bonen and Bart van Istendaal. Oscar has been a teacher for many yeers at Crea 16 the school in the Antwerp neighborhood of Zurenborg, where Antwerp Jews were gathered after the razzia of August 28 in that tragic summer of 1942. At the school, they were kept on the playground, awaiting their transfer to here, the Dossin barracks in Mechelen, from where they were deported to Auschwitz-Birkenau. As a teacher, Oscar saw the enrollment books of the school from before and after the war. Before the war, 40% of the school students had been Jewish. After the war, there was no trace of them. They left a void that could never be filled in again. Oscar organized a play about Anne Frank at school, which brought him to the songs of Mordechai Gebirtig, a Jewish Pole from Krakow, and a poet and author of Yiddish songs. Oscar went to Gebirtig's hometown of Krakow, learned Yiddish, and began to spread Gebirtig's music, often at commemoration ceremonies, including the annual commemoration walk for the razzia of 28 August 1942, organized by the neighborhood committee in Zurenborg. Bart van Istendaal is a viola player with the Antwerp Symphony Orchestra and has been playing music with Oscar since he was 16. He is the perfect partner to accompany us with music in this ceremony. We are very grateful to both of them. Our General Director, Thomas Baum, has already mentioned that this ceremony and the many new portraits are the work of many people. In non-COVID-19 times, this ceremony would also be a moment when many unique encounters would take place, and when people who found the pictures could tell their stories. This year, we want to bring two of them by digital means close to all of you. Our archivist, Doreen Steven, who coordinates this project with great professionalism and empathy, will read out the names to the new portraits tonight. A second person I would like to introduce to you is one of our volunteers, Renier Heinsman. His contribution symbolizes a strong involvement of the younger generations in this project. In non-COVID times, young people have taken a very active role in this ceremony. They were born many years after the war, and today they are confronted with family histories that they want to know about as much as possible. They are committed to studying and passing on this history, not only to us, but also to the next generations. Renier has published in Dutch, Vergeten is het grootste verlies, forgetting is the greatest loss. In it, he talks about his search for his family history and especially the story of his grandmother, Lucienne Blumenthal, who was in hiding in Belgium. As a student and volunteer at Kazerne Dossin, Renier managed to identify more than 100 portraits that we are inaugurating today. We are extremely grateful to him for all his work, and we would now like to give the floor to him so he can explain his extraordinary research with a self-made video.
Hello everybody, my name is Reinier Heinsman from the Netherlands. I am Dutch. Over the past few months, from May until October 2020, I have been active as a volunteer for the Give Them a Face project of the Kazerne Dossin Museum. As a volunteer for this project, my task was to trace family members of deported individuals who were still missing on the wall of remembrance in the museum. My approach was not always the same. I used, for instance, immigration archives. I used war archives, restitution claims, and I used obituaries of surviving family members. I also went to Yad Vashem, where you can see the submissions of testimonies. Usually the submitter of a testimony, it has some personal information, so you can trace people. I used address books, phone books. In some cases, I contacted synagogues when I had the feeling or the suspicion that somebody was connected to a certain synagogue. And in some cases, for instance, when I could only find a physical address, then I would send a postcard. And through this way, in total, I received from 7 to 8 different countries a total number of photos of 90 missing deported individuals. And these 90 photos will all be added today, in addition to what has been found by other researchers. And so I was very surprised actually by the overwhelming response of the families. And when I look at the different countries, number one, it's not really surprising, but it's the United States, then Israel, number 3 is Canada, and then we have, for instance, Switzerland, Germany, Belgium, and I think France as well. So, and England, of course. So it was very international, and to highlight the fact that this was a very shared and combined effort, not only on my part but also on the part of the families, I would like to give one example, which is the case of the girls Bella and Estella Pelter. Initially I contacted Hannah from America, who I traced, who was a family member, and so I asked, do you have any photos? And she said, no, I don't have any, but let me ask my family members in England. So she asked in England, but in England no photos either. So then I tried to go to the other side of the girls, because Hannah was related to the mother, so I tried the family of the father. So then I contacted somebody in Canada, Isabel, and she told me also I do not have any photos. She forwarded me to somebody in Israel, to Eli, and Eli said, I am their first cousin and I do have photos. So in this particular case, I was busy from the Netherlands, Hannah from America, her family also in England, then Isabel in Canada, and then Israel, where the photos were found. And it was very much, we needed a lot of patience, because in total it was like 2 or 3 months until the photos were found. So that was a bit my approach. I'm very grateful for every participating family, and without all your help and effort, it would not have been possible. If the families would not have been willing to share photos with me of their deported family members, and with the museum, of course, then the number of 90 would never have been achieved. So I would like to thank everybody. This has been a shared effort on part of all of us, and together we made it possible that all these people today will be added. So thank you very much, and we will now continue with the next part of the ceremony. Thank you very much.
This year, we are once again adding a particularly large number of new portraits to our memorial wall. Each of these photographs represents so much more than a black and white image of a person whom the Nazi regime wished to murder, to exterminate, only because of their being Jewish or Roma. Tonight, I would like to share one story with you, that of the Ehrenfeld family. In the course of the year, we were contacted by Peter van Hoeke, whose neighbor, Guy Bosmans, had saved 7 photographs of an unknown Jewish family. Guy's mother, Anna Lambrechts, had worked as a housekeeper and governess for this family during the Second World War. She lived with them, and resident personnel, even if they were non-Jewish, were registered on the membership's records of the Jewish Association of Belgium. This enabled our team to find out that Anna had been employed by Jacques Ehrenfeld's family just before and during the war. Until the identification by Kazerne Dossin, Anna's son Guy and Peter did not know who was in the photos. Jacques Ehrenfeld was a widower with 2 young children, Sylvain and Marcel, born in 1935 and 37 respectively. Their mother, Henny Schachter, had died before the war. In this photo, probably taken in early 1942, we see Jacques at the top left, with his hand on the shoulder of his eldest son, Sylvain. Jacques' parents, Sigismund and Jenny Ehrenfeld-Hirsch, with little Marcel in the middle between them, moved in with him during the war. On the right, we see Jacques' sister, Gisela, and her husband, Josef Friedman. Their 5 children are also in the picture. Standing next to her father at the back right, we see Therese, born in 1925. Next to her, Max, born in 27, and Eleazar, born in 29. Miriam is at the far left, standing next to her cousin Sylvain. They were both born in 1935. And little Ruth, born in 1939, is sitting on her mother's lap. None of the 12 people in this picture survived the war. Grandfather Sigismund died in an Antwerp hospital. The others were all deported from the Dossin barracks. Therese Friedman with Transport 10. Her parents, brothers and sisters with Transport 18. Grandma Jenny followed on Transport 21, and Jacques with Sylvain and Marcel on Transport 22B. All of them were murdered in Auschwitz. This year, we add the pictures to the portrait wall of Gisela and of all the children in this family picture. And that means a lot, not only for us, but also for the family members of the Ehrenfelds and their families by marriage. Renier, whom you just heard speaking, searched and found relatives of Jacques and his family in the US. For the first time, they were shown photographs of family members who died during the Holocaust. These families have been particularly touched by the fact that these photos still exist and are now in contact with Peter. You can read the whole family history in our image bank under the collection description Ehrenfeld. Anna has kept and cherished these photos, these pictures, her whole life. Her son Guy spoke to his neighbor about it. He contacted us, and in this way we can now all remember this family.
Weinichts, kleiner Josem, spor die Tränen, hat's dich quält, weil das Leben hat nach Sores, oi wie schlecht, wenn Tränen fehlt. Spor die Tränen wie Brillanten, lässt einmal sei darfen sehen, wenn dein Herz geht schon über, los von eurer Häuser tränen. them.
At this ceremony, let us remember the lives of all 25,846 people who were deported from the Dossin barracks between the summer of 1942 and the summer of 1944. This wall of portraits leaves no one unmoved. The symbolism of giving every deportee a face, the removal out of anonymity and cold statistics is, for many victims, the only grave they will ever receive. At the opening of Kazerne Dossin in 2012, the portrait wall showed 19,116 photographs. For more than a quarter of the victims, there was only a silhouette, indicating whether the person was a baby, a toddler, a child, a teenager, an adult, or an older man or woman. Each year since the opening, newly identified photos have been added. A unique and extremely meaningful project we can be very proud of. With this year's ceremony, we are able to add 281 new photos to our commemoration wall. These 20,643 photographs and 5,203 silhouettes keep the memory alive of the largest crime against humanity ever committed in Belgium. On our memorial website and in our archives, we also show the photographs of Jews from Belgium who were deported from France, especially from Drancy, not far from Paris. We found 32 photos for this group this year. And we now have 4,653 photos for 5,946 Jews from Belgium who were deported from France. In the memorial that has been renewed this year, we commemorate them all. And now that the pandemic may have prevented your visit, we would like to highlight our memorial website. On kazernedossin.memorial, you will find all the photos and names of deportees from the Dossin barracks, photos of Jews from Belgium deported from France, and many stories from that historical period. The memorial website also offers you the possibility to virtually light a candle in memory of one or more of the many victims, or to leave a personal message. Physically, we must keep our distance, but in our minds and through these initiatives, we will keep these bonds stronger than ever before. Showing this project and these photos is of paramount importance. The faces in these photographs and the stories and histories behind them touch us and make everyone feel a bond with the victims. Showing the photographs, telling about the people portrayed, is not only a research and remembrance mission. It is also a broad educational project that wants to send a message to the world, calling for respect for human rights, against racism and discrimination, so that everyone can live in peace and security today and tomorrow. Kazerne Dossin wants to be the place where anyone who was persecuted for racial reasons during the Second World War can tell their story, even if they were among the so-called lucky ones who survived, even if they only came to Belgium after the war. We also want to be the place where everyone can feel involved in this history. Everyone should feel involved in the fact that during the Second World War, part of our population was written out of society, discriminated against, stigmatized, robbed, persecuted, and murdered. This concerns each and every one of us. Let us add the portraits together and honor the memory of the victims.
Abramovic Elisa, Abramovic Eugenie, Abramovic Jageta, Akerman Hans, Adler Anna Rosa, Akerman Aaron, Aronovic Gitle, Atlasberg Mathilde, Atlasberg Josephine, Augenlicht Laya, Augenlicht Sura Faiga, Baburi David, Beiler Drama, Baumgarten Nessanel Wolf, Besemer David, Behar Gilda, Berges Marianne Rosa, Berkovic Aaron, Bibrovski Moise, Birman Shaina, Bichachi Moise, Bljoch Ghana, Blitz David Emmanuel, Blitz Madeleine, Bloch Nico, Bloemstein Herman, Bober Ghana, Boeken Elisabeth, Boeken Samuel, Boruchovic Albert, Borzikowski Binem, Burda Berta, Bril Rezi, Bronner Leib Herz, Broekart Kurt, Boegaster Barnaar Israël Baruch, Boelwik Mozek, Boelwik Wolf, Burstein Udas alias Adeline, Boetervas Chaim, Kagon Aaron, Schotliger Ruchla, Tschishkovska Hanna, Sion Jankiel, Cohen Bernard, Sikiert Robert, Cymbalista Abraham, Cymbalista Estera, Danzig Laura, de haas Salomon, de hond Israël, de jong Abraham, de leeuwen Marcel, de wolf Jeannette, Dembinski Shaina Genintla, de Vries Selina, de Vries Marcella, Diependaal Bertha, Dobrzinski Abraham Jozef, Dobrzinski Dian, Dobrzinski Nussen, Dolinger Esther Edith, Dubinski Fanny, Dimentport Mordechai, Ebel Mariam, Ehrenfeld Gisela, Ehrenfeld Marcel, Ehrenfeld Sylvain, Eisner Gittel, Eckstein Liba, Fast Helene, Faiga Israël, Farber Noech, Fas Malka, Fajevic Eva, Pfeffer Hilda, Pfefferkichen Abraham, Pfefferkichen Jozef, Figadner Nathalie, Figovits Manfred, Vogelgarn Brandla, Frant Esther, Freund Ingeborg, Frei Margarethe, Friedman Eliezer, Friedman Margita, Friedman Max Leopold, Friedman Miklos, Friedman Mirjam, Friedman Ruth, Friedman Sultan, Vrucht Herta, Frühling Siegfried, Futteral Moises, Gdailovic Ani, Gdailovic Charles, Gdailovic Herman, Gelernter Sarah, Gidler Rut, Glaser Karel, Gold Anna alias Ghana, Goldberg Esther, Goldfarb Herschek, Goldstein Arthur, Goldstein Samuel, Goldstein Harry Jacques, Goldwasser Amalia, Goldwasser Regina, Granaat Baila Deborah, Grimbaum Max, Grundmann Mortka, Grundfeldova Hedwig, Grunstein Morik, Greenberg Sina Meijer, Kringer Seva Laya, Hackert Jacques, Hamer Meilig Hersch, Hammel Ingrid, Hammelburg Salomon, Hauser Nathan, Herzberger Rosette, Hirsch Edith, Höflich Else, Hollander Melita, Hollander Samuel, Horowitz Charlotte, Horpatschki Friedrich, Inselman Ghana, Iranyi Leo, Israël Salomon, Isserman David, Itskov Jan, Jarolim Richard, Jarsosh Rosa, Jerozolinski Hersch Mortka, Jesserum d'Oliveira Selma, Jordan Adel, Joskovic Reisla, Kaminski Feige, Kaplan Schlama, Kenigstein Leibus, Keil Rachel, Klerenkoper Jesaja, Klerenkoper Samuel, Kleeman Leib, Klumak Heinz, Knoek Arnold, Knoek Constance, Koon Augusta, Korn Italia, Kornblit Gela, Koster Sintje, Kraus Feiga, Krebs Abraham Jacob, Krelstein Sally, Kress Rosa, Kreutzer Jean, Krimolovski Herman, Krimolovski Jacqueline, Kuit Saul, Kvacha Georges, Lagrené Alexandre, Lagrené Anna, Lagrené Anton, Lagrené Frans, Lagrené Frederica, Lagrené Louis, Lagrené Louise, Lagrené Maria, Lagrené Maria, Lehrer David, Leiderman Tauba Genentla, Levin Salomon, Levkovic Baila, Levi Herbert, Levi Paul, Liebeskind Doba, Lichtenstein Nuchim, Lindenfeld Judith, Lipschitz Helene Ida, Lipschitz Johanna Alexandra, Lipschitz Icek, Litz Golda, Maarsen Horry Salomon, Maître Joseph, Manassen Falk, Marmuur Sarah, Marx Otto, Meerlander Hans, Meerstein Etienne, Meerstein Ignace, Meerstein Otto, Meijer Simon, Melkman Judith, Melkman Marianna, Mendel Kurt, Michelson Lily, Mitsirzeczka Laya Lea, Meut Enta, Meut Zelda, Morgendorf Moses, Morpurgo Jacob Hartog, Morpurgo Carla Selina, Morpurgo Vogelina, Nachtgeist Jutta Juliette, Nagiel Israel, Naischuler Nehama, Nebig Jani, Neuberger Connie, Neuberger Theo, Nozic Giselle, Nozic Robert, Pakter Abraham, Pakkendrager Julius, Pekler Baila, Pekler Isaac Israël, Pelte Bella, Pelte Estella, Peper Mirjam, Pinjas Anne Elisabeth, Pollak David, Pollak Eva Frederica, Pollak Henrietta, Pollak Jozef Salomon, Ponch Malka, Poznanski Maurice, Front Philippe, Querido Abraham Albert, Redmeester Esther, Redmeester Sylvain, Robinovic Isidore, Robitscher Eleonore, Rochman Maurice, Rochman Michelin, Rodriguez Abraham Marcel, Rodriguez Marcel, Groter Vrijdag Ghana, Groot Abraham, Rozen Baruch, Rozen Schul Zelik, Robinovic Gitman, Samson Rudolf, Santen Fanny, Scherzinger Therese, Schiffer Herbert, Schiffman Michael, Scholte Jonas, Seiden Leon, Seiden Moritz Jacob, Sidlecki Maurice, Singer Sarah Lea, Skowronek Gaia Sura, Sonnenblik Helene, Soewijnen Gerald, Spiegel Rosa, Spits David, Spits Jacobus, Springer Marie-Louise, Springgoed Lezer David, Steinkalik Dora Helene, Steinkalik Sarah, Steinkalik Schein, Steinfeld Manja, Storch Fradel, Strauch Rifja, Swab Katharina, Cecehach Ida, Steinkalk Isaac, Schwimmer David, Thereznen Maria, Tennenbaum Lasha, Tevin Abraham, Tevin Bernard, Tevin Elias, Tevin Jankiel, Tevin Jules, Trost Dorit, Trost Erika, Turco Simon, Oer Hendrik, Oer Henriette, Oer Rose Regina, van Blankenstein Simon Tobias, van Kreveld David, van Engel Vogeltje, van Kuik alias van der Borge Christine, van Rijn Emmanuel, Veffer Jopie, Verduin Leon, Vogelzang Jeannette, Voorzanger Anna, Waas Beppie Betje, Waas Rika, Wagstok Temora Frida, Wagner Laia, Weichenberg Saya Mortka, Waldvogel Leon, Waldvogel Mortko, Walch Max, Warszawski Blima Hena, Waterman Mozes, Wijs Anna, Wijs Sander, Weil Simon, Wites Günther, Wouthuizen Betty, Wigotny Adolf, Wienman Benedictus, Zagdanski Harry, Sagdanski Rosa, Sagdanski Schmo, Salzman Henri Herbert, Salzman Josephine, Sarman Jackie, Zeelander Salomon, Zeelander Soere, Simmer Juda, Surik Bertha Cato, Silberstein Itra.
And so we come to the end of the ceremony. On behalf of the entire Kazerne Dossin team, thank you to all those present and to all those who contributed to the portrait ceremony. This is the work of so many families and researchers. It may seem small, but it is a great and important contribution that each of you, in your own way, have made, and that you further underline with your presence here tonight, physically perhaps far away, but more connected than ever. Every picture tells a story, and every story is worth telling, because every form of discrimination was one that injured people and should have been challenged and not allowed to proceed, just like today. Let us not just never forget, but always remember. And Loop mir weiter singen sein Lied. Let us continue their song.
Schlaf scheu mein Kind, mein Engelekleid, die Ehre legt deine Macht zu. Die Mama wird kaufen, a Pferdele schenkt, und schlaf sie mir all Die Mama wird kaufen, a Pferdele schenkt, und schlaf sie mir all Pferdele schenkt, wird kosten viel Geld, a weichere euch mein Wort. Du wirst wohnen vorne in der Welt, euch suchen dein Tageschi dort. Du wirst wohnen vorne in der Welt, euch suchen dein Tageschi dort. Dein Tate, mein Kind, ist lang schon weg, a Briefel geschrieben, nichts mehr. Findest du ihm dort, dann frag ihm euch frag, sie liebt dein Mama nichts mehr. Findest du ihm dort, dann frag ihm euch frag, sie liebt dein Mama nichts mehr. Sie hatte vergessen sein Weib und sein Kind, a zweiter Porträt auf mein Ort. Sie erste Choliloi, weil mir Wind, gestorben der Tageschi dort. Sie erste Choliloi, weil mir Wind, gestorben der Tageschi dort. Al Julius schlaf, mein Ingele Kleins, a Joschen Lebech bist du. Ich will dich lernen, Kadesha